Symmetry, circles, spheres, spirals, parallels, golden angles. The world around us seems to be full of harmonious relationships, and plants are no exception. The ancient Greeks believed the world appears beautiful to us because it's full of plants which display perfect geometry. However, we now know that perfection does not exist in this world. And if the beauty of plants so often catches our eye, it may be because we see in them shapes we've already encountered or imagined within our own minds. Geometric shapes that seem almost perfect, abstract, following absolute rules for all eternity. In this sense, they are full of what the Platonists consider to be one of the highest forms of all beauty, those found in mathematics and symmetry. Beauty, of which circles and spheres are the quintessence, being the only forms to have an infinite number of axes of symmetry. One in the plane, the other in space. Circles and spheres also appear in plants, like this cactus. Though imperfect, millions of years of evolution have shaped it into roughly a ball. It's not to please the Platonists, nor is it to look pretty. Adapted to the desert, this cactus uses the sphere's shape to maximize volume and minimize surface area. Minimal transpiration, maximum water storage. This shape is the most efficient for being as big as possible while having the least contact with its environment. In these cacti, small grooves extending from the sphere let them expand or contract with water supply changes without tearing the skin. Unlike animals, plants usually develop radial symmetry even without curling into a ball. That is to say, they have a top and a bottom, but no left or right, no front or back. Like sea urchins or starfish, some plants are exceptions, such as the traveler's tree. In my opinion, that doesn't make them less beautiful. Another geometric object seen in the forest and early geometry classes, parallel lines that shape landscapes and abstract worlds. The force that drives most trees, at least for their above-ground parts, to grow straight up toward the sky. It results from the wars they've been waging for millions of years to reach the sun. One day, or one night, a biological mechanism capable of telling which way is up, it's that way, emerged. Hundreds of millions of years and billions of mutations. Lignin created these straight lines. Thus wood was born, surely the craziest biomaterial on our planet, able to dance in the breeze and withstand the storm. All these lines, more or less straight, more or less branched, have created three-dimensional habitats, or resources to exploit, if seen through a gibbon's or lumberjack's eyes. Among other things, it's this ability to be aware of gravity that allows some trees to grow over 100 meters tall. Like Hyperion, the world's tallest tree, which adds 116 meters to Earth's radius, at the top of its lifeline, still growing. Even a tree that, during its youth, is knocked down by the wind will resume its vital vertical growth, but with surprisingly different methods depending on the species. Angiosperms, more commonly known as flowering plants, like an oak tree for example, straighten up by producing tension wood that pulls the tree upward. If you got the bad idea to cut it, you would see that the rings in these woods are wider on the inside of the curve. Whereas in gymnosperms, like spruces or pines, the mechanical dynamic is the opposite. Tension wood pushes the tree upright, creating wider rings on the curve's outer side. Two opposing mechanisms lead to nearly the same outcome and goal, with parallel evolutions. Like the veins of certain leaves that seem to have been aligned to let the sap flow. Others are arranged without clear logic, forming networks linked by a maze of chaotic patterns, reminding us of what we see on the surface of animal skin. Why are there such differences in the same organ? Sometimes, things just aren't what we think they are. In flowering plants, as I mentioned, there are two main groups: dicotyledons and monocotyledons. In the first group, like oaks or maples, the leaves are attached to their branches. By a small stalk, the sap flows through parallel veins before branching in all directions. A little side note, botanists consider that the term small stalk and the rest of the leaf you see are not scientifically acceptable names. They call the stalk the petiole and the flat solar panel the blade. In the second family, the monocotyledons, such as corn or reeds, no small stalk or petiole, just a long parallel veined blade attached directly to the stem. Except that, when you look more closely, it's actually the small stalk that, in their case, has lengthened and flattened to form parallel veins. So, these plants lack what we commonly call a leaf blade, and for them, it is non-existent, forgotten during a winding turn of evolution. For the same problem, soaking up sun to survive. There are billions of solutions in the green universe, billions of ways to be alive. 3 organs, roots, stems, leaves, and billions of variations. No rules or compass, just growth, development, and flourishing. Happy accidents, fruitful mistakes, and a subtle game under physical constraints. Here is a strobilus, a funny spiral in which the golden ratio is hidden, the star number of mathematics. To find the golden ratio, we must follow Fibonacci's sequence. 1 plus 2 equals 3, 2 plus 3 equals 5, 3 plus 5 equals 8, 5 plus 8 equals 13, 8 plus 13 equals 21, 13 plus 21 equals 34, and so on. How is this sequence related to the golden ratio? Well, actually, it's the ratio between two consecutive numbers in this sequence that quickly approaches it. Nicknamed phi, the golden ratio is about proportion. Take two parts of the sequence, a small one, a, and a large one, b. The ratio of a to b is the same as b to the whole. This proportional relationship between the whole and its parts is what we call the golden ratio. It's amusing that they try to rationally explain our sense of beauty. That the Greeks, and many others after them, ended up placing at the heart of their theory a number that we now call irrational, the famous phi, 1 plus the square root of 5 divided by 2. Let's return to segments A and B and the golden ratio. You'll see that they're going to bring us back to plants in a spiral logic. If you take segments A and B and fold them to form a circle, that angle there is the golden angle, which is about 137.51 degrees. You may wonder how this relates to plants. Look closely, it almost seems like magic. Because you find this double spiral in 2 dimensions on sunflowers, and in 3 dimensions in pine cones or pineapples. In fact, many plants arrange their leaves, their scales and petals in a spiral. And if you count the number of spirals in one direction and the number of spirals in the other, you invariably end up with 2 consecutive numbers. From the Fibonacci sequence, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34. Here we are again, seeing similar geometry in organs that are very different and evolved independently. Take a pineapple plant, for example. Yes, that's what it looks like. A pine and a raffia. We agree. If we show the whole plant, they don't look alike at all. Still, in the pineapple, pine cone, raffia fruit, at first it seems like the golden ratio is there, but once you open them, phi vanishes. The inside of a pineapple, a pine cone, and raffia fruit each look like this. You can also find these spirals at the top of prel, in the structure of aloe vera, at the bottom of artichokes, in the center of sunflowers, and even unfolded along certain branches. To understand why, we must look closely at plant cells and the essence of green life, so different from ours. There you go. In animals, the body plan is established early in the embryonic phase, within an egg or uterus. The eyes go here and the spleen over there. But in plants, organization continues throughout their life, not just at the start. It is continually rewritten by populations of stem cells located at the tip of each of their branches, constantly producing new organs. Depending on what these cells sense from their environment, for instance, the appearance of a flower looks like this. And if the petals grow away from the center, forming a spiral with an angle of 135 degrees, the golden angle is that the stem cells produce proteins around them that inhibit the growth of the plant. Strangely, it's an experiment straight from physics that can help us feel where the double spiral structure of plants emerges from, in complete self-organization. Take drops of ferrofluid and drop them into a magnetic field that pulls them toward the periphery. Next, you'll see the drops change, become charged, and repel each other. In the same way that inhibitory proteins in buds prevent other buds from forming nearby. And you will see, amazed, a double spiral, as if by magic, appear. And that's how biochemical constraints at work in developing buds give rise to hypnotically aesthetic forms. And how can we talk about mathematics and geometry without mentioning the star of mesmerizing plant curves, Romanesco broccoli? This is a meristem, a cell division zone just beginning to form. Clusters of flowers on a branch often pause in their growth, then repeatedly start again, and end up here by creating this fractal shape which tirelessly reproduces the same spiral structures at different scales. Could we eat it? Beyond the astonishing geometry of plants, made up of parallel lines and spirals, there are mechanisms of mind-blowing complexity hidden within. They all have in common that little something extra that imperfect beauties possess. The spherical shapes that these cacti take are, in a sense, just as imperfect as the shape of our planet, which, as a reminder, is like an orange, flattened at the poles and quite bumpy on the surface. Although the universe's physical forces draw us closer, perfection doesn't exist in this world, and that's definitely very good news.